Welcome to Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. I'll be covering every studio song the band has recorded and every bonus track that I can find. Each week we'll go over a new song from the beginning to where they are currently, and as they keep adding albums, I'll keep adding shows. Let the deep dive party begin.
In the magic garden, some were singing, some were dancing.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. I am your host, Scott Haskin, and I am, of course, bringing you this fan-based, band-endorsed podcast covering everything Uriah Heep ever recorded and released in the studio, all the bonus tracks I could find, getting down to the wire here. Today we're covering a song that, this is probably going to be among the highest number of shows that I've covered, or songs that I've covered the most. However, that would be, that's it. We'll go with that. And this would be Gypsy, the very first show I ever did that reviewed a song. This would be back on November 10th of 2020, the very beginning of the show. I had done 2 episodes that I had to do for the feed. And then I also had to do one because there was a delay. I had announced the show was going to start, and then we delayed it because of Ken's passing and logistics and stuff. So I did a second announcement, just kind of going over, okay, here's what my expectations of the show are going to be. And I haven't listened back to that, but I would say it's probably been pretty close to that. The one change would be that I had no intention of doing any live material at all. But Dave White asked me about doing Live in 73, and we did that one together. And that was it. I think pretty much the majority of the original intention of what I set out to do when I started the show has remained the same since the first season, which is really cool. So that was the first time I reviewed the song Gypsy. The second time would have been when we did the Live in 73, Dave and I did on May 9th. I broke that into 3 episodes, so that aired May 9th, 10th, and 12th, just because they were, they were quite lengthy in time, and I know you guys like shorter episodes, so I broke that up. Then again, I covered it in when I did Totally Driven, so that would be the fourth or the third time, and now this will be the fourth. The only ones that would beat that would be if there's something that I covered on the live album that I also did a revisit on, maybe Easy Livin'. Yeah, I think Easy Livin' might be the only one that will beat that. So yeah, it's all good though. Here we go with another version of Gypsy. Just to give you guys a quick reminder of who's in the band. On vocals, we have Bernie Shaw, guitar, Mick Box. On bass, of course, we have Trevor Boulder. On keys, we have Phil Lanzon. And on drums, Russell Gilbrook. Very close to our current lineup. The only difference would be that Dave Rimmer is the current bass player, and that's it. Everyone else is the same. So let's get into this particular lineup's interpretation of Gypsy. Wow. That was pretty intense. Really nice modernized version of it. I really love Russell's playing, from switching to just the straight snare hits to throwing in a little bit of buzz rolls, then eventually throwing in the double bass. Really nice build there. I wasn't sure how I felt about it, because when Phil started out, it just was like so empty and choppy. I'm like, this is kind of weird. then when Mick joined in, I'm like, okay, now it's feeling a little bit more normal. And then it just like took off from there. Very, very cool opening. This is super heavy. I really like it. I love that I can hear everybody very well, but that Mick is out a little bit more in front than everyone else. This is a guitar song. You know, it does have strong keyboard in it and everything else, but when I think about this song, I think about it being a guitar-led song. So I like that the guitars are a little bit out in front.
I was only 17, fell in love with a gypsy queen. She told me, hold on. Her father was a leading man, said you're not welcome on our land. And then as a foe, he told me to go.
It seems like there's a little bit more low end in Bernie's voice on this one. I like it. It's adding a little bit more depth, which I think works well with this song. His voice is very good. It's not mid-range or anything. It has a very nice tone to it. But I feel like they pushed the low end just a little bit on the EQ on this one. Just kind of adds a little bit heavier of a sound, and that probably works really well with this music because it's a very heavy version. Yeah, cool.
To our little
I like the extended backing vocals. I love the way they sound together too. This is definitely very much in the tradition of the original version, but it just sounds heavier.
Jack put a whip across my back and told her, leave me. I was out for quite a time, came back with her on my mind. This sweet little girl, she means all the world.
Okay, that's kind of interesting. When they do the ah by itself, it's okay. It's cool that it's longer. It's different, you know, unexpected. But when they do them back to back like that, I'm not sure how good that sounds. It's almost a little bit too much of it, maybe, because it's so in the front of the mix. It's very powerful, very much in your face. So I'm not sure I like that that extension going back to back like that. But the drums, I love what Russell's doing with this song. Very creative drum wise. Something really different, a different flavor, something more aggressive. And I think this is kind of an aggressive story. I mean, we're talking about this guy fighting for his love and you know, dad not wanting to let little girl go. And certainly there's a heavy power there. So yeah, I think it deserves a little bit of an edge. That was just absolutely spectacular. Some sensational playing by Phil there. Love the organ swells that were really traditional, but I love that he just made it his own. Love the arrangement of all of this. Very powerful. And, I heard just a bit ahead of where I stopped it and just jumps right back into the vocal. But an excellent transition. Wow, I can't say enough about how much I like that section.
Though I love my gypsy queen, will she still be torn between her father and lover? One day I will call to him, strong enough to fight and win, the kind of a man that he'll understand.
Beautiful, haunting ending with that reverb and slight delay on the chorus vocals there. Great ending, really powerful. It's you feel like Bernie is just ready to rip this guy's head off. And I love that because that's what love does to you, right? It just makes you do insane, crazy things. And it makes you feel like you're way stronger than you are, which is just hilarious in a situation like this. But I thought Bernie delivered something really special here to this one. I like this much better than the version on Totally Driven. If we had to compare it to the original, I think that there's a certain factor that we would have to consider, and that would be the time frame. If you look at what was recorded in the late 60s, early 70s, what was considered heavy versus what's considered heavy today. Think about songs like Smoke on the Water, Paranoid, Gypsy. They were very, very heavy back in those days. Today, they don't seem heavy to me. This seems heavy to me. And that's because there's been a huge change in the sound, what we can do with an instrument, what we can make it sound like, how big we can make it sound, and as opposed to the techniques that we were using back in the late 60s, early 70s. So I don't necessarily mean that this is any heavier by comparison. I can say that it's heavy to me. When I listen to it, it's very heavy to me. But in the time frame of it being released, Gypsy was very, very heavy in its day. So was Paranoid, so was Iron Man, so was Smoke on the Water. Like all those songs that are historically known were all very heavy. And while the songs still stand up, I'd have to question the sound a little bit. Like I think there's some albums that are considered, like really hard rock albums, like take an album like Machine Head. And I think it actually has like really warm overtones to it. I think it has like a mellow sound to it. I don't think it's a very heavy album when I listen to it. But if I were to think about what life was like in 1972 when it came out, yeah, absolutely. That was an incredibly heavy album for what was out before it. So was In Rock. Actually, In Rock sounds heavier to me than Machine Head. But I have to, if I'm going to do any kind of compare and contrast between the two different versions, I would have to take into account the difference of where we were at when they were released. I like this version because I think it's very innovative. I love what Russell added to it. I think Phil did some amazing work there in the solo section. I can hear Mick Box in the background with the wah pedal. Bass is absolutely solid. Bernie's bringing vocals to a whole new level. I really like this version. I can't really say if I like it better or not as much as the original, because again, I've been listening to that song for 35 years. So, nothing's ever going to replace that. And it's not a competition. I see so many people, even today, I went on to check on a friend and I happened to see a post show up in my newsfeed where people were talking about, what album is better. And I'm just like, oh, for the love of God, it doesn't matter. It's not a competition. It's for the band, it's competing with other products for your money. And that is the truth. If I have $20 in my pocket, I could buy an album. I could buy food. I could put that towards a car payment. I could put that towards a house. I could put it towards charity. I could do a lot of things with that $20. Whatever I choose to spend that $20 on wins that $20. So if I buy a Uriah Heep album with that $20, then it's won the competition of alternates I could have spent that money on. But to say compare Salisbury to Demons and Wizards, or to say, Magician's Birthday isn't as good as Living the Dream, or, however you want to go after it. Like, it's just inane conversation. Either you like something or you don't. That's all that really matters. And for me, I like both versions. I could say I would listen to either version. I didn't enjoy the one on Totally Driven as much as I enjoyed this one. So I would say I would probably listen to the original or this one. Doesn't mean that it's a better version. It's just one that I liked more. It just had a bigger edge to it. I think it just brought the song to a new level. A lot of that had to do with Russell and more aggressive drumming. And I think a lot of it had to do with just that edge from Bernie. And of course, the tone that Mick was getting, especially in the verse and chorus parts, absolutely drove that. I love that. Great bass work. Like it just hit all the check boxes for me. And the one on Totally Driven was good and I liked it, but compared to this one, I like this one better. So I'd be more likely to listen to this one more. Would I go out and say that the other version's bad? Absolutely not, because it wasn't. I enjoyed it. So anyway, that's my little speech for Gypsy. Probably the last time I will cover this song, as I think I've covered it to death, as with a couple of these. So that will do it for today's episode. We'll be back tomorrow for the Friday episode. Have a great day, guys. Cheers. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. If you have enjoyed this show, please consider going over to Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast outlet, leaving a rating or a review. Be sure to subscribe to make sure that you are notified when new episodes are available. Please be sure to share this podcast with your fellow Uriah Heep enthusiasts and anyone who you think would like Uriah Heep, which should be everyone. And if you are so inclined, please feel free to contribute to the Patreon account. And if you are not a Patreon subscriber, you can also pay through the PayPal link on the website listed in the show links below. I would also like to thank Uriah Heep for their very generous support of the show. And thank you guys for listening. We'll see you in the next episode. Happy days!